Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session on researching children, families, and communities, approaches and methods. Our speaker for today is Professor Vinita Bhargav, retired from the Department of Human Development and Childhood Studies, Lady Irwin College, University of Delhi. Professor Bhargav has taught many courses in child development, child rights, statistics, and research methods, along with undertaking research projects. Prior to joining Lady Irwin College, she worked with the Social Work and Research Center Tilonia and the Institute of Social Studies Trust. Professor Bhargav has worked with various agencies in the field of adoption policy and practice in India. As a founder member of CARA, the Central Adoption Resource Authority, an autonomous nodal agency under the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India, and the NOC committee member for screening applications for inter-country adoptions, she has contributed significantly to national policies on adoption. She has held executive positions in the All India Women's Fund and the Indian Association for Family Therapy. She has written numerous papers and reports, as well as manual for trainers in early childhood development for the government of Maldives. She has authored a book entitled Adoption in India, Policies and Experiences, published by Sage Publications. This has been translated in Tamil. She has founded a support group for adoptive parents called APNA, which is the Alternative Parenting Network Association in New Delhi. We welcome you, Professor Bhargav, to this session. I now welcome our principal, Professor Swati Pal, to this session on research methodology organized by the Department of HDFE. I request you, Professor Pal, to welcome our speaker for the day and address the gathering. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nimi. And of course, once again, a very, very warm welcome to you, Professor Bhargav. And I must put on record my gratitude that despite the fact that you're not well, you have honored your commitment to speak to this audience. And like somebody in the audience has just written, I too recall your wonderful talk on adoption, and we are all looking forward to listening to you again today. I'm very, very pleased, Nimi, that you have organized this talk, because I feel that, the whole idea of researching sometimes can get very nebulous. We can assume that research is to be done in a very homogeneous kind of fashion. Whereas when we are researching, on families, on children, and on communities, we have to be sensitive to so many issues, so many factors. Researching on them or about them or with them is a completely different ball game as researching in other fields. So it is very important that we are all sensitized as to how research needs to be conducted when we are, when, for example, things like privacy issues, things like, something that could be harmful or negative towards families, children, and communities. All of these things have to be really factored in. And many of us, including myself, I'm not very sure whether I really have enough know-how on it. So I'm really pleased that you've got somebody who's as knowledgeable as Professor Bhargav to speak to all of us. And once again, I congratulate you and your department. You are a two-woman army now. You used to be a one-woman army, and now you're a two-woman army who are constantly at it. In fact, I must tell you, Professor Bhargav, that if a week goes by and I find that I don't get to hear something that HDFE is not doing, I get withdrawal symptoms. I keep thinking there's something wrong, and poor Nimi will immediately find a message or a call from me saying, Kya hua? Is everything okay? You're not doing anything. So, but she's constantly at it, supported by Prerna. So congratulations to you, and looking forward to listening to this talk.
Thank you, Professor Pal, for your very kind words. And an instruction to the participants. We will be sharing an attendance and feedback form at the end of the session. Please fill up the attendance cum feedback form. It's very important for us. Thank you so much. And Professor Bhargav, I request you to begin the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nimi. It's really a pleasure. And I think getting this opportunity to come and talk to you about one of the most favorite areas of mine has actually over the last week made me sit down and actually put down on paper. And I must say that, it came quite easy writing down some of the most exciting experiences that I've had in the field vis-a-vis research. So today's talk is actually divided into 3 sections. And the first section is basically to do with some of the key words that I'm going to give you. And these key words are basically very important vis-a-vis the experiential work that we do in research. So I'm going to start out with, a page or 2, and that is why I asked Nimi that all of you have a paper pencil, because very rarely do we talk about these things in a classroom where we are discussing research, nor do we talk about this area when we're guiding research. Over years, one has guided several PhDs, guided a lot of field research, and these are some of the areas that are kind of left out. Like Swati ma'am also said, some important things of privacy, some things that do not come in our mind when we talk about research methods. So I'm going to list out some of the things and you make a note of them. Then I'm going to read some of the experiences and you have to actually note down what were the dilemmas in those experiences vis-a-vis research. And the third thing is a standard PPT presentation, very brief, on the key aspects of social science research. So with these 3 things, I'm going to begin. Normally, when we talk about research or research methods, we talk about a research design, a research paradigm. We talk about exploring, we talk about writing out our objectives, we talk about review of literature, we talk about data collection, we talk about all the standard, listing of what a research design is, what it entails. But what I'm going to talk about is the behind this research. What are some of the things that you must look at or try and understand for yourself as both researchers and people who may be guiding research. So a lot of young students now, even undergraduate students, do some innovative researches or even small researches in their own environment. I think we have to create a temperament of doing research. I think that's a very, very important thing. So the first thing which very often is left out is the researcher. Who am I? Am I a woman? Do I have certain beliefs? Do I carry certain values? Do I carry a philosophy about society, about people? So and in other disciplines, like for instance, when we are talking about, say in counseling, actually the person who starts counseling must herself or himself go for a counseling session, because it's very important for you to see what is the baggage you carry. What is it? If I am a traveler in a train and I'm carrying a suitcase, if somebody unpacks the suitcase, I don't think everybody will have the same kind of clothes. If it's a young child, there'll be more toys, maybe there'll be some other kind of, maybe diapers, this, that. If it's a woman, maybe something else. If it is a man, if it is a politician, if it is so everybody carries a certain kind of baggage. This baggage is basically what, when we as researchers go into the field, we rarely talk to ourselves about who we are. What are our beliefs? We're just out there trying to, understand the other. But we can't understand the other, especially in social sciences, if we don't know what are our prejudices? Do we carry some prejudices? Sometimes when I used to take students to the field, like for instance, we used to go to a Basti area, we used to go to a village, I would find many of them holding their nose. If you go into the field feeling that these people are inferior and I am that superior, then you will not be able to collect data in a very honest, objective manner, because you're carrying your own prejudices on your back. So this particular aspect is what we call the researcher's positionality. This is a term you must remember. You may or may not find it written about, but today, if you look at some of the new researches that are coming out in the field, say for instance, recently I was reviewing a research which was done on how Korean adoptees go back, they are adopted by Americans, they go back to their country to find out or reclaim their name. So when I was reading about the authors, there's a whole section on who those authors are. And when I read it, I found there was one person who himself was a Korean adoptee. So it becomes very important for us to locate ourselves. Say, for instance, when I went out to the field to collect data on adoptive parenting, it was very important for me to disclose that I myself was an adoptive parent. Or for instance, some of my students who have gone to the field doing work on Dalits or certain other very specific areas, it becomes very important to locate who we are and how we relate to the reality that we are going out there to see. You understand why I'm saying this? I'll give you a very sweet example of it. Once we had gone to see a movie, this was long time ago. It was called Lagan. I'm sure all of you know the film Lagan. Do you know the film Lagan? Okay.
Yes,
It had many aspects to it. So when we came back, one of our neighbors visited us, and she was trying to find out what the film was about. So she asked my daughter, who at that time was, say, about 8 or 9 years old. So she told her, oh, it's about this beautiful girl who dresses like this and who sings these songs, and she wears this jewelry and she looks so pretty. Then my son pitched in and he spoke about the cricket match. He must have been a few years older than her, and he spoke about the cricket match that was important part of Lagan. And when my husband came into the whole thing, he spoke about the historical context within which all of this happened. It's also very, in our own Indian folk tales, it reminds you of that elephant. 4 blind men went to understand who the elephant, what kind of animal an elephant is. So one held on to the leg and said, Hathi to ek khambe jaisa hai. One held on to the ear and said, Hathi to pankhe jaisa hai. Like that, they went through it. So it is what you are carrying and what you touch that will tell you what the reality is about. So that is why the first thing I want you to record is the researcher's own position. So what does this mean? The term positionality both describes an individual's worldview, my worldview, and the position they adopt about a research task and its social and political context. Now, this is very important because as you grow older, research is located in a social and political scenario. Today, if anybody does certain kinds of researches, it will come under the scanner of the government. So you have to be very, very careful about the kind of research that you're doing and what is the kind of worldview that you have. So the individual's worldview or where the researcher is coming from, or concerns of ontological. Now, this is another word which very often is not described. Ontological assumption. An individual's belief about the nature of social reality. What is a person's belief about the nature of social reality? Is it an objective reality? Do all of us see the same thing? Or do we see different things from the position where we are sitting? If I'm sitting in front of the TV, I will see the TV. If you have your back to the TV, you will be seeing maybe another picture at the back. So our position will tell us what we see. Or is reality actually co-constructed? Can we come together to construct that reality? So ontological assumptions are very important, and these are an individual's belief about the nature of social reality.
Professor Bhargav,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Is your PPT is not moving?
No, I'm not moving it.
Okay, you're fine. That's fine. That's
Don't
fine.
worry. I will move it when I need to.
Yeah, no, fine. I just wanted to check. There was a message in the chat also.
No,
Thank
no. I'm not moving it. I'm just laying the foundation.
Right.
For
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, and the second one is the epistemological, which is assumption about human nature and agency. That means an individual's assumption about the way we interact with our environment. How do we interact with it? Are we just seeing it? Are we engaging with it? Like for instance, if you take pure science research, प्योर साइंस रिसर्चर्स ये अगर दवाई दी तो इससे कोविड की कोई दवाई दी उससे क्या फायदा हुआ. Like now they are really screaming loud that remdesivir and ivermectin, all the ivermectin, these are all really bad, and they were used at a particular time, saying that these were good, but scientific research has now shown that they were a waste. And of course, there were the pharmaceutical companies who made a lot of money on it, and poor people who really, in spite of buying them at black money and all that, lost so much money on it. So, so therefore, this position that a researcher holds makes clear three things. What are these three things? What is the subject that I'm going to investigate? Who are my participants? And what is the context? What is the environment in which I am going to investigate this? So therefore, like the counselor who actually, when they start counseling, have to know what am I carrying into the field. So there are many people who are saying that, look, if you say, for instance, we are talking about gay people, or we're talking about lesbians, or if we're talking about different kind of sexualities, you have to be prepared to deal with that. Like, for instance, if I believe that divorce is a really bad thing and it should not happen, and as a counselor, I get somebody who wants marital advice, I will always be trying to tell that person that, look, don't divorce, do whatever, but don't divorce. So I have to know what is my position before I counsel somebody, and I should be very objective about it. And that is the same way in which a researcher has to be highly objective about the field in which they're trying to go. And that objectivity is not a reality. Very often the researcher carries that subjectivity, especially in social science researchers, into the field. Today in medical research also, they're saying the same thing. Okay, like for instance, homeopathy will never just give you a medicine. See, they say they'll ask you a million other questions, vat, pitta, kapha, whatever your own, inside orientations are to the medicine. So this is very critical in the field of social sciences, and especially when we are researching families, communities, and children. So we have to know what is our position. So that's number one. Number two is a very important thing, that we go into the field and suddenly we find that, "Arey bhai, reality to kuch aur hai." Do we stop and think, or do we just, go around it, fudge it? I'll give you an example. When I went to do my research as an adoptive parent, I would call up people and say, I've got your number from a particular friend, and I've come to know that you have an adopted child. I want to research this area. And every single family, say the next 10, 20 families that I went to research, they all said, sorry, we don't have a child like that, and we don't want to talk to you about it. So as a researcher, I said, this research is not going anywhere. This research is an important research, not only for the adoptive community, but it's also important for me as a parent. So I have to actually open it up. I have to talk about it. So I have to, so I reflected. So there is what is called reflexivity. That means you reflect back on what is the stand you're taking and then maybe recreate the stand. So then the next thing was to actually come up front and say, I'm a researcher, but I'm also a parent, and I'm looking at this reality which is out there, which may help our own children, because we don't have any research data to guide us as to what we should do. And immediately when the stance changed, there was a whole lot of parents who came forward to say, sure, we'll be happy to talk to you about it. The same way, I mean, like for instance, one of my students, I don't know whether she's here, but definitely during the course of her own research work, when she went to the field, she realized that the data that she was collecting might be harmful to the participants. Because at that time, NRC, CAA, all these kind of things were happening. And so there was a twist or a change in the path. So we have to have a kind of advisory board or a group of people who can then help us to acknowledge that the reality out there may be different and we may have to change our path. So that was yet another thing. Then the third thing I want you to write down, and like, so we've said positionality, reflexivity. Then the third thing is the insider outsider. So like I told you, if I'm an adoptive parent, I become an insider to my study because I'm also studying adoptive parents. But very often I was not an insider. Why? Because I did have a biological child and I did not really know what infertility was about. So I could be an insider, but I could be an outsider. Or in another study where one of my students looked at the Agarias, and she went to the field as an outsider. She was not an Agaria. She's a Delhi girl, but she goes and lives there with that community. She learns the language. She shares their food. She became a daughter of the community. And so she was not an outsider anymore. So the anthropologists or ethnographic studies are certain studies where the researcher lives with the participants and learns to create the reality, understand the reality together with the engagement with them. Otherwise, you could just go, like for instance, when I was in Tilonia and I was working there, I found log aate the, 3 दिन रहते थे और पूरी किताब लिख के चले जाते थे. And here I was struggling with what is the meaning of this and what is society about. And even after staying 3-4 years, it was very hard for me to write anything. But somebody who came as an outsider sees the reality as separate from themselves and therefore is able to see it. So if you go to America, you will be able to see that Americans kaise humse alag hain. But if you're looking at your own family, you might find it difficult because you'll think you take many things for granted. You take a lot for granted and you don't realize that that is also knowledge. That is knowledge that has come down to you almost as a habit, as a tradition, as some source like that. So this is another very important thing. The next important thing, and I'm asking you to write all these because the next part will actually show you this. So the fourth part is the relationship between the researcher and the researched. Normally the researcher goes, if I am going into the field as a professor, then I go with that superiority. And whoever is being researched will feel kind of inferior. Acha, pata nahi hame pata hai ya nahi, pata nahi hum jante hain ya nahi. Like for instance, one of the researches we did in Maldives, it was a very interesting piece of research, and it was undertaken by a very big international organization. And they went to the community and they wanted to find out how much they know about children, young children. So they started asking them questions. Do children hear at birth? Do children see at birth? Do children feel at birth? So to all these questions, the people said, don't know, don't know. So And I found it when I went back to evaluate the study after an intervention had been done, I found it very strange. I said, how is it that these families who have 5, 6, 7 children, how come they don't know whether children can see, hear, feel, touch, whatever? So I said, I asked them that question and they gave the same answer, don't know. So I said, oh, tell me, on your island, in your family, among your relatives, do you know children can see, whether they can see at birth? Of course, our children all see at birth, but we don't know in other parts of the country whether the children see at birth or not. So, I mean, it was the way the question was asked. The question was put in a very generic fashion, which really comes from when you learn something by reading books. So when you read a book, in the book, like many of you, when you're bringing up children, you read Spock. Spock says what children can do, what children can't do. They learn through that, through the book or through magazines or through engaging with other parents. But when you get knowledge through the oral or through experiential knowledge, the question you will ask will be very different. So then I wrote a big note to this agency and I said, look, see, you have spent so much money on finding out that these children know nothing, this community knows nothing about children, but actually you asked the wrong question. And they did a huge training program after that, telling families that, oh, you must play with your children because they can see and they can feel and they can hear. Whereas actually all of them were doing these things, because when I did observations in the field, they were playing with their children, they were interacting with them, newborn children. So a whole research went completely haywire because you did not understand how knowledge was coming to them. And therefore, the tools you use, the questions you asked were not correct. So this is, again, a huge thing. And this brings me to another very important thing, which is conflict of interest. Please make a note, conflict of interest. Now, it may appear that this is a bad word, this is something very wrong, but actually all researchers actually do have a conflict of interest. Because what is, when you are a researcher in the field, you may be a PhD scholar, you're doing research for what? To get your PhD. You have to finish your work and you have to publish it. And you have to, maybe get your tenure because of this. That means your job has to become permanent because you have to do research, you have to publish more research. So there is always some conflict. But there is bigger conflict also in research. Like, for instance, they have found that large pharmaceutical companies who had sponsored researches on medicines, on vaccines, they had some other kind of vested interest to make a lot more money, which could have made so many more people sick. So the individual researcher has a conflict of interest. Of course, they have to be academics and they have to publish and they have to do all that. But there is also a lot of money making. So I remember once when at the department, Nestle came. And Nestle had, asked us to do some research on babies and infant feeding. And we knew that Nestle was into baby food. So their research would definitely kind of feed, this research would feed into some of their selling. So we refused. We said, no, we're not going to take it. So then I remember as a young researcher in Kilonia, I used to, I was always told that money has color. Don't take money from the Coke industry. Don't take money from, somebody who's doing bad work. So that is this is never spoken about. When we look at research, we don't see who has sponsored this research. So much of, the doctor world is full of this. They get a lot of freebies by the pharmaceutical companies for them to actually give their medicine. Okay, if the medicine is a good medicine, they should give it irrespective of whether the pharmaceutical company gives them something or not. But if it is bad product, and the company says, oh, I'll send you for a holiday to Switzerland, or I'll do this or that, which they do. Since I happen to have a pediatrician husband, I know that the pharmaceutical company is ridden with this. And all the big conferences that are held where people present papers and all of that are actually sponsored by these pharmaceutical companies. So nobody teaches you this. Nobody tells you that look at where you're getting your money from. And does it have some other interest other than pure academic interest? So be careful about that. The next thing which is very important, and again never spoken about, is the conflict between a researcher and the practitioner in the field. So for instance, when I went to the field as an adoption researcher, it was very hard to get into the field. I would not get any subjects. People would say, हमारे पास time नहीं है, हम नहीं आपको ये help कर सकते. आप लोग तो पता नहीं क्या-क्या तरह के questions पूछते हैं. This is all very, we have to keep anonymity about this. Privacy is very important. So a lot of field research, because no lawyer will give, no doctor will give, no agency will give. So very often, and that is why I sometimes feel very privileged that I was able to do this adoption research, because if today also you are to look at research in the area of adoption, you will find very little, simply because the researcher cannot enter the field. So if you're doing, or for instance, one of my students who was looking at gay communities, and the only reason why she could enter that community was because she had a friend who was part of the community. So can I get into an area which is, a different area, and where the practitioners and the researchers are conflicted? The researcher thinks, ये लोग बिल्कुल help नहीं करते. The practitioner, मतलब field level workers feel, ये लोग तो आके सिर दर्द करते हैं, and they don't really help with anything. So this challenge between the researcher and the practitioner is a very important thing. The last area which I think Swati ma'am spoke about was the ethics of research, especially when we are talking about families, we're talking about communities, we're talking about children. I think it is so important. हमारे देश में हम किसी को पूछ के कुछ नहीं करते, हम आराम से जाके क्वेश्चंस पूछ लेते हैं और उनकी इंटरव्यू कर लेते हैं, और कोई सबको अच्छा भी लगता है कि आ रहे हैं लोग, बट उसका रिपरकशन कभी-कभी बहुत खतरनाक हो सकता है. So it is very important as research ethics, and I think today we are all very conscious of it, that you have to take informed consent in writing, and you have to see that no person is really harmed by your research. And I'll tell you some very, stories which are very, like nobody would think that something like this can actually cause harm. There was once a researcher who went to a 8-year-old or 9-year-old, and she was looking at whether parents are differentiate between adopted and biological children. So one question was that अगर तुम नदी में डूब रहे हो, तुम और तुम्हारे भाई, तो तुम्हारी माँ किसको सेव करेगी, किसको बचाएगी? This girl was stumped. She said, I don't know, I'll have, she was 8-9 years old. She said, I don't know, I'll have to ask my mother. So she went to her mother, and her mother said, this is a very strange question, but it troubled this girl so much, because it was something where she suddenly, it came to light कि क्या मेरी माँ discriminate करेगी हम दोनों के बीच में? It's a small thing, but it could become so big. Another of my researchers who went to the field, and she found that one adolescent girl had become very close to her. And that girl shared with her that she was being sexually abused by somebody. Now, we know that POCSO, the act, I'm sure many of you have studied the act, POCSO has a very important thing there, that if anybody comes to know that a child is being abused sexually, you have to report it. Now, this is a question not only that comes to researchers, but also to counselors. When I counsel children, sometimes they disclose to me that this is what is happening. But I have to be very aware that this can happen. And if it happens, what is my course of action? Because suppose it's the father, suppose it's a very close relative. What would be the repercussions for the child? It's not a small thing, it's a very big thing. So there are so many such challenges in the field that we are never ready and we are never aware that this can happen as a researcher. Another researcher of mine who's looking at mental health issues, and she is talking to young boys, she's talking to young girls, and when she one of the cases where this boy started calling her up regularly, saying, you must listen to me, I'm going through so much. So it went beyond research. And she got very frightened. She was a young researcher. So she immediately called up saying, ma'am, main kya karoon? Because I mean, ultimately, I have taken data from him, but now I can't just say no, but my parents will get very angry. Who is this young boy who's ringing you up and who's every day call aa raha hai? So these are the safety aspects of research, both for the researcher as well as for the participants. So with these key things, so I've actually spoken to you about 7 things. Now, I hope you made a note of these 7 things. And from this, we'll go on to the more formal part of my presentation. So keep this in mind. So here we go into what would be much more a classroom kind of presentation. So I'll take you through it so that some of you who are new to research, at least you get to understand what are the research steps. So here we go. Why is it not moving? Okay. So, how do we get knowledge? Like I said, this center part which says source is actually the individual. So any individual, what are the ways in which we get knowledge? There are multiple ways. There is only research is not the only way we get knowledge. Most of our knowledge comes from experience, from authority, from tradition. Sometimes we borrow knowledge. Sometimes we do role modeling, logical reasoning, sometimes intuition. Like very often, you know, especially in adoption counseling, when parents come to me and say, ma'am, हमने सारे टेस्ट करा लिए बच्चे के ऊपर, मैम सब चीज ठीक है, उसकी हेल्थ भी ठीक है, उसका फिजिकल एस्पेक्ट्स भी ठीक है, क्यूट बच्चा है, बट हमें पता नहीं कुछ लग रहा है कि ये ठीक नहीं. So then I always tell them that, you know, you have to have that sixth sense, the intuition. Sometimes intuition, sometimes when we are like, for instance, even many of you are young people and you meet somebody for shadi, and you don't know कि ये गलत है या ये सही नहीं है, but something tells you कि all is not okay. No, I don't want to say yes to this boy. There is something about it. You may not be able to be scientific कि उसकी height नहीं है, उसका color नहीं है, उसका income नहीं है, कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है. But kuch hai which does not endear him to me. So intuition. So there are many methods of getting knowledge, and we can't close our mind to all these methods. So therefore, what is research? So what we see as research, and I've been listening to some very fabulous lectures on Upanishads, which actually counter what we learn about research. So research is a systematic investigation into a specific problem or issue using scientific methods. So what are these methods of science? There are certain methods of science. So this is best done by turning the issue into a question. So whatever we are wanting to study, we create it into a research question. Do people who eat avla not get COVID? Do people who have had COVID once get it again? So we turn the idea of what we want to do into a question. The use of, then we also use systematic investigation. हमें इतने सैंपल चाहिए, उनसे पूछना पड़ेगा, उसको किस तरह डॉक्यूमेंट करना पड़ेगा. So we, from that question, we also create a hypothesis. Hypothesis सुना होगा तुमने term hypothesis. Hypothesis is a statement. It's not a question. It is a statement of the link between two variables. So the two variables in the COVID research are the whether variable one, amla taking. How many times do I have to take amla before it prevents something? So there are two variables which are measurable. They have to be measurable. Okay. And using that measurement, we relate the variables. Sometimes other in between things will also crawl in. So we call them independent and dependent variables. But बीच में आ जाता है confounding variable, जो सब चीज को गड़बड़ कर देता है. आंवला ले रहे हैं बट हमारे को डायबिटीज भी है, तो वो कंफाउंडिंग वेरिएबल हो गया. आंवला ले रहे हैं पर हम ओल्डर हैं, या आंवला ले रहे हैं पर हम बच्चे हैं. तो these are all confounding variables which we may or may not have factored into our research. So we have to remember that in creating a hypothesis, we link two or more variables to understand their relationship. And then we use certain research methods. What are these methods? Methods are sample. How we sample them? Is the sample representative of the whole? जैसे कि कई बार मैं बच्चों को बोलती हूँ, what is random sampling? So they'll say, ma'am, कैसे भी ले लो बच्चे को, कैसे भी select करो. Random sample is the most systematic form of sampling. It is not randomly. It is a use of the English word random, but it actually means a highly systematic form. We can use the computer, we can say every 5th case, we can say every 10th case, we can use a fishbowl method to select the sample, believing that everybody has a chance to be selected. Then once we have collected we have the sample, then, and we have the tools. So what are these tools? In social sciences, we use interviews, questionnaires, survey methods, observation, different types of observation methods. And sometimes we also do social experiments. But social experiments are done largely by the psychological communities, where they do certain kind of testing, certain kind of very standard experiments are done. And of course, in the pure science world, this is a very, very important method of researching. So we call it randomized trials, the randomized control trials, RCTs. So these are some of the methods of researching, and then we summarize it, we bring it together, and then we reach a conclusion. And do we have any, from these conclusions, can we say something? Can we give recommendations? Can we do something about it? So that is what research is about. So what are the 5 things? Systematic, logical, empirical, reductive, that means you can generalize, replicable, that means the methodology can be repeated again. So like what I had told you earlier, were things that really troubled me, and I'm going to repeat it again so that they get into your brain a little more carefully, that each researcher is guided by their own approach to the research. So if I go into the field, I'm guided by my own approach. And so lots of times when a PhD student comes to me and says, ma'am, aap jo bolengi wo research hum kar lenge. I said, nahi, main nahi bolungi, because this is your own journey. Research is something which you are passionate about. Research is something like, you know, producing a baby. You can't say, तुम बोलोगे बच्चा कर दो तो मैं बच्चा कर दूंगी, उसके बाद पता नहीं मैं पाल पाऊंगी या नहीं. So research is like that. You have to be so passionate about it. You have to know what you want to do. You have to know why it is useful to do that. What will be the implications of my research? So that understanding, very often the research guide or even in teaching, and I'm not blaming anybody, I myself, I know how little I emphasize some of these things, because we are so tied up in saying what are the kind of statistical methods, what are the different types of sampling methods, that we forget that this is the core, this is the basis. And if we don't have this clear in our mind, we will use wrong theories, we will use wrong methodologies, wrong in a sense, inappropriate to our belief system. Like for instance, I'll give you an example. If for instance, there is somebody who believes कि ये गोरापना should not be highlighted, कि अरे very gora child, gora person, and then that person goes to the field and does an ad for a fairness cream. Won't you think that there is a dissonance? कि ये तो बड़ा अजीब बात है, ये तो अपने ड्राइंग रूम में जब बात करती है तो बोलते हैं कितनी खराब बात है, ऐसे नहीं करना चाहिए, और फिर बाहर जाके ये खुद ही कर लेती है ऐसे. तो that cannot be. There has to be a connect between what I am, my belief, and my research. I can't go out and do something different. So that is the approach. It includes perceptions, beliefs, awareness, theories, practices used to carry out scientific research. It is the approach of thinking about the research, the accomplishing process, and the method of implementation. It is not a methodology, but rather a philosophy. This is what I want to tell you. That do not just treat it as a simple method. ये किया, इसका outcome ये हो गया. इसमें बहुत कुछ issues हैं. Okay, so we talked about these 3 words. I won't spend so much time because anyway, these slides will be with you, but this is the basic construction of reality. What is this objective reality? Is there something like that? Or is knowledge really created? These are a little complicated. And of course, the methodology. So you see that there are various kinds of paradigms. That means there's so many theoretical and methodological assumptions and so many kinds of basically the way in which we see reality. Like for instance, in constructivism, you see relativistic reality is socially or experimentally based, locally and specific in nature. And how do we get it? By doing case studies, interviews, etc. And positivism is the reality is objective and perceived. कोई भी जाके डेटा कलेक्ट कर सकता है और वो ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी है, एक क्वेश्चनर ले जाएगा, किसी से भी भरवा देगा और सर्वे कर लेगा. जैसे बहुत सारे लोग आपके दरवाजे पे आते होंगे ना सर्वे करने कि ये भर दीजिए, आप कौन सा न्यूज़पेपर लेते हैं, आप कितनी बार पढ़ते हैं, आपको वो पसंद आता है या नहीं. सो यू बिलीव दैट इट इज एन ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी एंड एनीबडी कैन गो एंड कलेक्ट दैट डेटा. But when we are studying families and communities, it's not like that, because हम क्या देखेंगे, किस तरह उसको देखेंगे, वो हमारे ऊपर निर्भर है, और हम और वो किस तरह इंटरैक्ट करेंगे उससे हमें उसकी जानकारी होगी. So these are the various kinds, and I won't spend too much time on this. If you want, we can go back to it again, but I'll quickly go through it. So the approach, the theoretical orientation, serves to frame the research in terms of scope while also providing an anchor in the literature. So हम क्या करते हैं, अपना तो सोच करते ही हैं, पर हम ढूंढते भी हैं कि और लोगों ने क्या रिसर्च किया है, क्या औरों ने भी मेरी तरह सोचा था, उनका क्या रिजल्ट आया, या कुछ और लोग थे वो कुछ और ही सोच के कर रहे थे. तो हम क्या करते हैं, रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर करते हैं, हम थ्योरीज को पढ़ते हैं, और कोई क्लासिक थ्योरीज है, कोई सब्सटैंटिव थ्योरीज है, कोई फेमिनिस्ट थ्योरीज है, कई बार माइग्रेशन थ्योरीज होती हैं, क्रिटिकल थ्योरीज होती हैं, इकोसिस्टम थ्योरीज, बहुत तरह की थ्योरीज होती हैं. और उन थ्योरीज में से फिर हम समझते हैं कि हमारा जो फिलॉसफी है, क्या और लोगों ने भी उस फिलॉसफी से रिसर्च किया है. This helps in the description of the plan. तो ये क्या करता है, हमें एक प्लान देता है कि हम किस तरह अपना स्टडी करेंगे, और एक अप्रोच देता है जो हमारा ब्लूप्रिंट होता है. जैसे जब हम घर बनाते हैं तो कई बार आर्किटेक्ट अपना ही मन से घर बना लेता है कि यहाँ किचन है, यहाँ बाथरूम है, यहाँ ये है, ये बहुत अच्छा डिजाइन है मैडम, ये आप बनवाइए। बट जो हमारे जैसे लोग होते हैं वो बोलते हैं नहीं, हमें किचन और बाथरूम साथ साथ नहीं चाहिए, हमें अपना घर में सन आना है, हमें विंडो यहाँ बड़ी चाहिए। नहीं नहीं मैडम, हम जालियां नहीं लगाते, वो बहुत सुंदरता को कम करती हैं, हम तो बिना जाली की खिड़की बनाएंगे। आप अपने घर में बनाइए बिना जाली की खिड़की, पर हमारे घर में तो हमारी तरह से आपको बनाना पड़ेगा। सो दिस हेल्प्स अस गेट अ ब्लूप्रिंट of how we are going to proceed with the research. So therefore, what is the purpose? बहुत तरह के पर्पस होते हैं लोगों के रिसर्च करने के। कई बार एक्सप्लोर करना होता है, हमें कुछ ज्यादा पता नहीं है तो हम एक्सप्लोरेटरी रिसर्च करते हैं। कुछ लोग हैं जो डिस्क्राइब करना चाहते हैं कोई कम्युनिटी, जैसे आगरियाज हैं, जैसे और कम्युनिटीज हैं जो एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट सोशियोलॉजिस्ट ने किया, वो जा जाके रह के कम्युनिटीज को उन्होंने डिस्क्राइब किया। फिर एक्सप्लेनेटरी, सो दे लुक एट द कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, दे आर आल्सो कॉल्ड कॉजल रिसर्च। तो ये दवाई लेंगे तो कोविड इतने टाइम में खत्म हो जाएगा, ये लेंगे, जैसे लोग कहते हैं कोल्ड के लिए अगर आप विटामिन सी और ये लोगे तो वो 1 हफ्ते में खत्म हो जाएगा, अगर आप नहीं लोगे तो 7 दिन में खत्म हो जाएगा। बात तो एक ही है, 1 हफ्ता है 7 दिन सेम। सो बेसिकली दे लुक एट कॉज इफेक्ट relationship, and they are so like that. You have many categorizations of purpose of research. So there is participatory research, there is social action research, there is so if you go to different books, you'll find many different kinds of purposes of research. So we basically categorize it into 2 types: basic research and applied research. So basic research is purely for the purpose of research. जैसे कोई रिसर्चर है वो किसी भी चीज पे, कोई भी मॉलिक्यूल, कोई भी एटम, किसी भी चीज पे जस्ट फॉर द प्रोग्रेस ऑफ साइंस करता है, उसका कुछ एप्लीकेशन अभी नहीं दिख रहा है, शायद बाद में दिख जाए, बट अभी कुछ नहीं ऐसे दिख रहा है कि इसकी रिसर्च का कोई फायदा है। So many times in poor countries like India, they say इतना पैसा हम इस पे नहीं स्पेंड करेंगे, हमें तो बहुत सारी अप्लाइड रिसर्च चाहिए जो कि फील्ड में हम यूज कर सकते हैं, ओके, जिसका एप्लीकेशन फील्ड में हो। सो इफ यू गो टू द Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, or you go to the Ministry of Women and Child Development, there used to be a whole list of research areas which should be taken up for research, because the country needs that kind of research. Not that they value it very much. मतलब पता नहीं कितने साल से, 30 साल से, at least in the area of adoption, मैं तो खड़े होके चिल्लाती जा रही हूँ कि हम कैसे प्लानिंग करेंगे अगर हमें पता नहीं है कि हमारे कितने डेस्टिट्यूट बच्चे हैं, कितने कोविड ऑर्फन्स हैं, कितने बच्चों को क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है। We cannot do any planning if we don't have information. So we need information to plan, but time नहीं है, हमें तो फटाफट करना है प्रोग्राम, बट हम रिसर्च नहीं कर सकते। So you will not find good planning of programs without research. You have to have. So applied research is a very, very important area. So based on the methods, you have inductive research methods which focus on the analysis of observation and are usually associated with qualitative research. ये सब terms हैं जो याद रख लीजिएगा। Deductive research methods focus on the verification of an observation and are typically associated with quantitative research. Then you have categorization of qualitative research, quantitative research, mixed research methods. So ये सारे आपको types मिलेंगे। So quantitative research aims to assess a pre-stated theory. तो theory है, उसको हम test कर रहे हैं। Often involves hypothesis testing, जो मैंने बोला, hypothesis is a statement about variables. Often attempts to minimize the influence of the researcher on the outcome. तो क्योंकि वो researcher based नहीं होता, क्लियर होता है ये टेम्परेचर है, इस टेम्परेचर पे ये केमिकल डालो और उसका आउटकम ये होगा, तो वो इस तरह का रिसर्च होता है। and quantitative data infers statistics. Data collection, therefore, requires closed responses. So, sorry. And qualitative research strategies investigates aims to create a novel theory. मतलब वो खोजता है कि जो पुरानी थ्योरी, पढ़ते तो है हम सब थ्योरी, बट उसको आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश करता है. Researcher becomes an inherent part of the study, like in ethnographic studies, the researcher becomes a part of the community. Qualitative data infers complex statements or opinions. बहुत सारी चीज जुड़ जाती हैं to understand the phenomenon. Political, social, individual, सब तरह की influences आती हैं. And data collection therefore permits open responses. तो आपकी क्या opinion है? आपकी क्या राय है? आप क्या सोचते हैं इसके बारे में? So types of research also based on methods is analytical research, जो historical research होती है, philosophical research होती है, descriptive जो मैंने बताया, case studies, surveys, ethnographic research, experimental research, pre-experimental, quasi-experimental, true experimental, ये अलग-अलग type of research methods हैं. So like each of these, it gives a very interesting visual. I just put it for that. It's the same one as pichla slide, but it looked pretty, so I thought it will be nice. So what is the scientific method? Ultimately, it is you begin with observations. You go to the field, you see the field reality, and then you ask questions. Very often we don't do this. We don't do the observational part of it. We go straight into questions. And then we look at other research, or researchers ne kya bola hai. Then we may generate hypotheses or objectives, if not hypotheses. We may do certain kind of experiments, or we may do certain kinds of other methodologies for data collection. Then we draw from this data collection, we analyze it using different methods of analysis. We draw conclusions, then we share our results with others. Like they say, peer reviewed. That means other peers have seen it and have criticized it to see कि ये सही है या नहीं है. Then we develop interventions, जैसे कि अब ये कोविड के टाइम में बहुत सारी peer reviewed research नहीं हुई थी, और उसके लिए ये remdesivir, ivermectin, plasma transfusion ये सब करते रहे, but they found कि उसका कोई फायदा नहीं था. And then you ask new questions. So from those old questions, today I'm seeing a lot of people writing, okay, we should not make the same mistakes that we made at the time of Delta. We should think what kind of medication has to be given. जैसे स्वाति मैम ने बोला कि आपको सिर्फ क्रोसिन, अगर आपको बुखार है तो आप क्रोसिन ले लीजिए, आपकी नाक बंद है तो maybe you put some nasal drops. So you just do symptomatic treatment. Do not use antiviral medicines and other various kinds of medicines. So this is the basic research philosophy. Then we go, so like I said, so at the end of it, there are many controversial issues, which I raised earlier. I gave you those terms. So we say sponsors of the research. कौन है? किसने sponsor किया है research? और क्यों किया है? किस purpose से ये research किया गया है? क्या ये research किसको benefit करेगा? लोगों को करेगा या researcher को benefit करेगा? या fund generators को benefit करेगा? The research design, does it take into account the culture and the context? जैसे मैंने बताया कि जब वो मालदीव्स में स्टडी किया तो उनने क्वेश्चन ही ऐसा पूछा जिसका आंसर तो आएगा ही कि इनको कुछ नहीं पता है, बट अगर आप क्वेश्चन बदल देते तो उसका आंसर भी अलग आ जाता. तो हम पूरा उनके ऊपर हम और पैसे खर्च करके इंटरवेंशन किया, ये सब किया, क्या वो जरूरी होता? So then participants of the research, are the participants protected? क्या हमने उनकी जो जिम्मेवारी ली है as participants उनकी सेफ्टी को देखा है? I'll give you one example of my own study, and I feel very bad about it. In 2004, when I did a study on adopted children, and then I wrote a book about it. And that book is called Adoption in India, Policies and Experiences. And one of the children in that book at that time was just 6 years old. So I had written a case study changing everything, all the names, but some of the things, obviously, if the parent reads it, then they will know, and they bought the book, they read it also, and they said it's fine. But when this girl became 17 and she saw that book on the shelf, she took it out and she read the book. And she was able to make out that this is my case study. And she actually got very upset. And she said, why did you talk about me? So then, of course, the parents described to her that this was the reason. We were trying to find out what is a good way to parent a child. And so in that way, we gave this information. Okay, she's okay. And she's now married. She probably has her own children. But I'm just saying something so small. And like we say, no, we'll change the names. We took inform all the, ethical principles were followed, all of them. But still, it can cause trouble. But I didn't anticipate it at that time. The same way, social and political implications of the study. Like I was telling you, when this girl went to the field to start her work, she was planning to look at a certain kind of people and write about them. And then suddenly the NRC and CAA came about. And it was right at the time when she was almost writing up and putting things together. And she said, I want to drop this research because it will expose my participants. They will be in trouble. I cannot talk about it. So the political scenario can change. That means the social scenario, the politics in it, and therefore the results of the study can become problematic to the participants. So this is also some of the things which were controversial to me and need to be thought about by senior researchers or teachers who guide research, and also by students. If they go to the field and they feel they are coming across these things, they must discuss it with their teacher. They must discuss it with their professors. They must discuss it amongst themselves to come to certain conclusions. So therefore, the salient features, research has to have relevance. It should not be purposeless. Otherwise, it will be unethical. It has to have a purpose. Otherwise, you're spending state money, you're spending your own parents' money, and it is a waste. Research outcomes, research when conceptualized may intend certain outcomes. So you should, when you collect data, you have to go back into theory building. What many of our master's students do is they stop at data collection, they write the conclusion about the data, but do not go back to theory building. That means they may have taken Bronfenbrenner's theory or Piaget's theory or some other theory for their research, but they don't tie it up together back to theory. So you have to go back to theory building. It has to feed back. You either reject the theory or you accept it and you maybe add something to the theory, but you have to do it. And it should also generate some intervention. It can generate intervention, informing policy, documenting purpose, or even informing legislation. You should be able to impact law. Then resources. We never talk about the resources. We think research free आता है. नहीं. Research में बहुत पैसा लगता है. Human resource, material resource, salaries to research staff, and we cannot waste that. It is very important for us to factor in resources. Time. Very often PhD students or master's students think that they have a long time to do research. They may have just 4 months or 6 months to do it, or PhD scholars 2 years to do it. But so in those 2 years, you can't collect all the data and you can't write everything. So you have to understand that it has to be structured according to time, money, need, and basically academic knowledge. So that is very important. And lastly, you have to have a very solid ethical framework. It should not cause harm to anybody. It should not be counterproductive to, and everything counts. So I'll just go. So you have to be neutral. You have to have tools which are reliable. You have to have tools that are valid. You should be able to generalize. And so in India, now we have a national ethical guidelines for biomedical and health research involving human participants. This is given, there is a ethical guidelines given by ICMR, which we at Lady Irwin follow. We have what is called the Institutional Ethics Committee, which comprises of 14 members, which have doctors, lawyers, ethicists, subject experts. So there are 14 people who sit in on every research to see whether it is ethically sound. And there is nothing wrong about that research which can cause harm by the tools you use, by the methodology you have, by the conceptions you have in your mind or the beliefs that you have. Unfortunately, yesterday also, before I finalized this, I said, let me see, I haven't checked. Has ICSSR, Indian Council for Social Science Research, have they brought out some guidelines? So social science researchers have not brought out any guidelines for ethical issues. So we ourselves at our college have developed our own guidelines for various things. And this is very important because a lot of foreigners, a lot of foreign universities come to India to collect data. And why do they come to India? Because in their own country, it's very difficult. You have to get consent, and there are really lots of challenges to collecting data from anybody. So, of course, in India, there are a lot of poor people. They can do a lot of trial researches on these poor people. They won't even know what they're being used for. And this has been done, let me tell you. Medical research, all kinds of researchers have used poor people. Second, it's the relative safety of researchers and the use of English in most parts of India. That is why that's also easy. They don't have to learn any other language. They can come here, use English, collect data, and go back and be safe. Then India lacks any framework for conducting non-clinical trials. Clinical trials ke liye to biomedical and health research hai. But for non-clinical trials, kuch bhi nahi hai. So guidelines in many countries require that those whom an experiment is conducted on should be among those who would benefit from the policy. So आप ले गए यहाँ से data, उसके बाद आप data यहाँ वापस नहीं लाए, और जो आपके जिनसे आपने data collect किया उनको कोई फायदा नहीं हो रहा है. So that is why it's very important that we have a structure for social research in social sciences on families, on communities, on children. And I mean, I know in adoption also, I may not be able to get data from the field, but one foreign organization can come and give money to, big money to agencies, and they will get the data. And how they use the data, nobody knows. So this is our own problem. Even AIIMS, if you go to AIIMS, there are a lot of foreign funding that is happening, coming from AIIMS. I mean, coming from different countries to AIIMS. They're collaborating, but try and get collaborations within the country. Very difficult. So what are the ethical considerations in the research process? So at the conceptualization, शुरू में हम देखते हैं कि साइंटिफिक मेरिट क्या है, रिस्क क्या है, हम रिस्क को कम कैसे कर सकते हैं, पार्टिसिपेंट्स को कैसे हम रिक्रूट करते हैं, हम उनकी कंसेंट लेते हैं, उनके प्रिवेसी के बारे में बात करते हैं. ड्यूरिंग इंटरवेंशन, अगर हम कुछ ट्रायल कर रहे हैं, जैसे कुछ मेडिकेशन दे रहे हैं या कोई प्रोसेस ट्राई कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें कोई रिस्क है क्या? नहीं. जब हम रिजल्ट्स डिक्लेयर करते हैं तो कितना कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी, और आजकल तो सब क्लाउड पे रखते हैं, तो देयर इज अ रिस्क ऑफ एक्चुअली accessing that research. So much can be done. So after the release of the results, ensure that participants and communities involved they get some benefit from that research. मतलब बाद में कुछ तो फायदा उनका policy, कुछ तो फायदा होना चाहिए. And publication of research should follow ethical principles. So publication मतलब plagiarism नहीं करना चाहिए, कहीं से copy नहीं करना चाहिए. तो इस तरह का काम हमें नहीं करना चाहिए. So with this, I will stop sharing. If we have time, I have some stories, but if we don't have time, we can just stop here. So it's up to the people who are here. If you have about 15-20 minutes, I will share some of the field experiences, though I did share in between, but there are so many, thanks to Nimmi, I sat and wrote down so many different field experiences that.
Thank you, Professor Bhargav. We would definitely like to listen to your stories and research experiences.
So will you give me 15 minutes more?
Sure, sure.
So I'll, though I have 5 pages of it, I will only take the most important ones. So the first one, and that was the time when I was all of, say, your age, how many of you may be 20, 21, and that's the time I went first time to the field. That field was a new field for me. It was a village. I had never been to a village before. And I was deemed as an expert for ECC because a large funding organization said that only if you have a child development person, we will give you a grant and we will give you money for setting up ECC programs in that block in Rajasthan. So this was in 1970s when many of you were not even born. So I was so smitten that with the belief that मैं college से पढ़ के आई हूँ, ये सारी जो college की knowledge है ये मैं field में ले जाऊंगी और इसको use करूंगी और मैं बालवाड़ी set up करूंगी. And I was very happy, very, very excited. Not that I even knew what 1 lakh looks like. And here this agency was giving us multiple lakhs. So I was like, oh, great. So when the first consignment, first box of material came, and it came from America, I opened it and I was like looking at it like this, iska main kya karu? So there were these fancy, colorful pots and pans. There were these very exotic toys. There were these medicines, which I never heard of their names also. And I said, अब ये हमारे पास तो चूल्हे हैं, हमारे पास तो अलमारी भी नहीं है, हम टॉयज को कहाँ रखेंगे? हम तो लाइक जहाँ गाय बैल बांधते थे वहां हमारी बालवाड़ी चलती थी, क्योंकि इतनी पॉवर्टी थी वहां. तो हम तो एक बक्से में अपना सारा सामान रख के लाते थे और वहीं चूल्हा जला के मिड डे मील, बच्चों को नहलाना, उनकी स्केबीज निकालना, उनकी जुई निकालना, सब वहाँ फील्ड में करते थे. यहाँ तो ये इतने एग्जॉटिक मटेरियल, बर्तन, ऐसे यार ये कैसे हो सकता है? ये बड़े बड़े लोग जो अमेरिका में बैठे हैं इनको यहाँ की रियलिटी नहीं पता है कि यहाँ हम कैसे चला रहे हैं. और ये तो फंडिंग ट्राइबल एरियाज, रूरल एरियाज सब जगह के लिए दे रहे हैं, तो ये कैसे यूज करेंगे हम? तो नंबर 1 इट हिट मी कि अरे सोशल कॉन्टेक्स्ट तो पता होना चाहिए. रिसर्च करें या अगर सोशल एक्सपेरिमेंट करें तो उसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट तो हमें आना चाहिए. दूसरी गलती वो मेरी थी, बिकॉज आई हैड लर्न दैट चाइल्ड राइट्स में right to survival is a very important right. तो एक परिवार था जिसमें एक बच्चे को कैंसर हो गया. There were 8-9 people in that family and they were really labor. मतलब वो जो लेबर करते हैं ना, रोड बनाना, ये वाला काम करते थे. अब हमें पता चला कि उसकी छोटी बच्ची को 5-6 साल की को ल्यूकीमिया हो गया. तो मेरे साथ एक और मेरे फ्रेंड थे, हम दोनों जाके नहीं इसको हमें हॉस्पिटल ले जाना पड़ेगा. हाउ कैन यू, द चाइल्ड हैज अ राइट टू सर्वाइवल. बहुत पीछे पड़ के उसने इतना हमें बेग किया, मैडम हम तो जानते हैं ये जाने वाला है, बहुत लेट हमें पता चला और हमारे और 7-8 बच्चे हैं, हम कैसे जा सकते. हमने नहीं सुना, हमने कहा नहीं हम जाएंगे आपके साथ, हम चलेंगे. सो हम पैसेंजर ट्रेन में बैठ के हम जयपुर गए. वहां सबसे बड़े हॉस्पिटल में पहुंचे जहां कैंसर ट्रीटमेंट होता है. तो वहां हॉस्पिटल में वेरी नाइस डॉक्टर, यंग फेलो, ही सेड सबसे पहले 2 बॉटल ऑफ ब्लड लेके आइए। We said अब ब्लड कहाँ से लाएं? और हम लोग सब बिल्कुल 38 किलोज, और वो भी पेरेंट्स भी बहुत कमजोर थे। तो सर आपसे हम नहीं ले सकते, क्योंकि तब even now the rule is that you have to give blood to get blood, otherwise you can't buy blood. मतलब ब्लैक में खरीद सकते हो, बट ऐसे तो you can't buy, you have to give and then get. अब पूरे जयपुर में ढूंढे कि कोई हमारा फ्रेंड मिल जाए जिसका हम, तो 2 लोगों को पकड़ के हम ले गए। जब तक ब्लड लाए शाम हो गई। इतनी देर हम ढूंढते रहे, खोजते रहे, ब्लड बैंक गए, ब्लड लेके आए। जब तक हम पहुंचे यहाँ, तब तक वो बच्ची मर गई। अब वो जो डॉक्टर थे उनने कहा कि देखिए आपको तो इतनी देर हो रही थी, तो हमने उसको 100 रुपए, ही वाज अ वेरी नाइस मैन, हमने उनको 100 रुपए दे दिए और बोला कि आप जल्दी से बस में ही ले जाओ, क्योंकि अगर राइगर मोर्टिस ना तो बॉडी स्टिफ हो जाएगी, तो आप बस में नहीं जा पाओगे, आपको टैक्सी लेके जाना पड़ेगा और आपके पास तो पैसे भी नहीं है, सो आप जल्दी से निकल जाओ, उनका वेट मत करो। तो हम दोनों तो बैठ के सड़क पे रो रहे थे। हमने कहा देखो, हमें तो इतना अनइन्फॉर्म्ड एक्शंस हम करते हैं कि कैसे हम ये सोच सकते हैं कि जो हमने पढ़ा वही हम इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं। तो ऐसे ही एक हम सिर्फ ऐसे गलती नहीं करते, बहुत और लोग भी गलती करते हैं ऐसे। तो एक बार ये अभय बांग करके एक डॉक्टर थे जो महाराष्ट्र में बहुत काम करते हैं कम्युनिटीज के साथ। तो उनने देखा कि जो मिनिमम वेजेस, आप जानते हो ना, जो कम से कम वेतन मिलना चाहिए किसी को काम करने के लिए, वो स्टेट फिक्स करती है। तो ये बहुत पुरानी बात है। तो स्टेट ने 4 रुपए फिक्स किया कि 4 रुपए आपको मिलेंगे पूरे दिन का काम करने के लिए। तो ये लोग डॉक्टर्स थे, इन्होंने कहा ये 4 रुपए का कैसे आदमी खा सकता है, रह सकता है, बच्चे पाल सकता है, तो चलो हम जाते हैं, पता करते हैं कि ये 4 रुपए कैसे फिक्स किए। तो वो गए गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस में और पता चला कि वहां जो सदस्य थे, जो बैठे थे कमिटी के हेड, उनने कहा मैंने अपने फ्रेंड को फोन किया जो डायबिटोलॉजिस्ट है, और उसने बोला 1800 कैलोरीज होता है अडल्ट मैन जो डायबिटिक होता है, उसके लिए 1800 कैलोरीज की जरूरत होती है, और कितना राइस, कितना सब्जी, कितना दाल चाहिए, उस हिसाब से 4 रुपए में आ सकता है। दे सेड पर ये तो मतलब बहुत काम करने वाले आदमी है, इनको कैसे हम 1800 कैलोरीज दे सकते हैं। इनका तो आईसीएमआर का जो वैल्यू है वो 3800 और 3000 है, विमेन के लिए 3000, 38,000 फॉर मेन। सो इनने फिर कैलकुलेट किया और फिर पता चला कि एक्चुअली 12 रुपए तो मिलना ही चाहिए। ये पहले की बात है, 12 रुपए काफी होते थे उस समय। तो फिर उनने पूरे स्टेट में, and they corrected this error, और पूरे स्टेट में उनने ये इम्प्लीमेंट करा दिया कि नॉलेज बेस्ड, क्या कहते हैं, नॉलेज बेस्ड एविडेंस बेस्ड आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, इनको हम क्या बोलते हैं, नॉलेज बेस्ड एविडेंस बेस्ड आर्ग्यूमेंट्स। इवन इन रिसर्च वी हैव टू यूज दिस। सो इस तरह के बहुत सारे, मेरे भी लाइफ में बहुत सारी कमिटीज में मैं बैठती थी, तो कैसे ये इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं बिना रिसर्च के, इट्स अमेजिंग। वी थिंक के बड़ा ये हाई फाई कमिटीज बहुत सोच के करते हैं, बट ऐसी बात नहीं है। तो एक बार शिशु गृह स्कीम थी जिसके लिए आई वाज ऑन द टास्क फोर्स। तो शिशु गृह मतलब जो अबैंडन्ड बेबीज होते हैं, जिनको बहुत इन्फेंट्स होते हैं, तो वो 2020 के ग्रुप्स में गवर्नमेंट उनको ग्रांट देती है टू लुक आफ्टर देम। तो जब वो कैलकुलेट कर रहे थे हमको कितना ग्रांट देना चाहिए, सो आई सेड ग्रांट देने के लिए तो हमें पहले पता करना चाहिए कि कितना कॉस्टिंग होएगी, क्या हमें चाहिए, हमें मेडिसिन क्या चाहिए, हमें पॉट्स एंड पैन्स चाहिए, हमें सैलरी चाहिए, हम अलग अलग कमरा अगर लेना है तो कितने पैसे लगेंगे। Nobody wanted to do that hard work. Only I was saying, नहीं, मैं नहीं करूंगी unless we do this work, unless we go to the field, we collect this data and we then implement it by saying this is the grant. So another very terrible, and that used to haunt me for a very long time. एक बार एक दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट की, तब शीला दीक्षित होती थी, बड़ी हाई फाई मीटिंग हुई जहां उन्होंने बोला कि ये जो हॉस्पिटल्स हैं और नर्सिंग होम्स हैं, ये बच्चों को अडॉप्शन में दे रहे हैं, जो कि एक क्रिमिनल ऑफेंस है। तो हमको करीब 12-14 बच्चे पता चले हैं जो कि ऐसे हॉस्पिटल्स ने दिए हैं। And the oldest was, I think, 14-15 years old, and the youngest was, I think, 5-6 months old. So they said कि जो नर्सिंग होम है उसने ऑफेंस किया है, क्योंकि उसको ऐसे देना नहीं चाहिए, देयर इज अ लॉ, और जो ले रहा है उसने भी ऑफेंस किया है, उसको पता होना चाहिए कि ये गलत काम है, ऐसे नहीं ले सकते। तो देन आई सेड कि अच्छा ठीक है, मानते हैं कि दोनों ने गलत किया, बट लेट्स गो टू द फील्ड एंड फाइंड आउट हाउ मेनी पीपल नो दैट दे हैव डन अ रॉन्ग थिंग। आपने कुछ अवेयरनेस बिल्ड करिए, आपने क्या लिखा है, आपके हॉस्पिटल्स में पोस्टर्स हैं, आपके बसों के पीछे कुछ पोस्टर्स लगे, कहीं कुछ तो होना चाहिए कि लोगों को पता चले कि उन्होंने गलत किया। जब हम फैमिलीज के पास गए, सबने कहा हमने तो बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, हमने किसी और के बच्चे को अपना घर दिया है और उसको अपने बच्चे जैसे पाला है, हमने क्या गलत किया है, आप क्यों इस बच्चे को हमसे छीनने के लिए आए हैं। सो ऐसे ये देखिए, आप ये नहीं कर सकते, और आप पहले अवेयरनेस करिए, उसके बाद इनको क्रिमिनल बनाइए। So that was one time I remember I was able to use my research knowledge and awareness to change a decision. And I know it was a very high power. Police officials, there were, Sheila Dikshit was there, many other people were there. But I think you have to really know a little bit of research, of policy, all of this to be able to fight. So, एक और बहुत फनी एक्सपीरियंस था वो, जब आई डोंट नो वेदर यू रिमेम्बर, बट जब राजीव गांधी ने संजय गांधी थे, तो उनने एक बड़ा फैमिली प्लानिंग का एक बहुत बड़ा कैंपेन किया था, जिसमें हम दो हमारे दो, हम दो हमारे दो, एंड देन दे वेंट ऑल ओवर द कंट्री टू होल्ड दूरबीन के कैंप्स। दूरबीन इज यूजिंग दैट, क्या बोलते हैं ना, रोबोटिक सर्जरी टाइप होती है, जिसमें एक होल करके दे डू द ट्यूबेक्टमी। तो जगह जगह गांव में जा जाके दे वर डूइंग दिस ट्यूबेक्टमी के 2 बच्चे और उसके बाद आप बंद कर। तो हम भी गांव में थे वहां, तो हमारे भी ये आए कि भैया गवर्नमेंट बोल रही है ये करना है, बड़ा कैंप करिए, आप लोग सब इसमें जुड़ जाइए। तो ऐसे ये तो बड़ा ये नहीं हो सकता यहाँ, क्योंकि यहाँ तो मोर्टेलिटी रेट इज सो हाई, इतने बच्चे मर रहे हैं, और मतलब अगर किसी के 6 बच्चे होते हैं उसमें से 2-3 तो डेफिनेटली मर जाते हैं। सो दे विल नॉट अग्री टू हैविंग दूरबीन ट्यूबेक्टमी। तो सो आई वेंट टू द फील्ड टू फाइंड आउट कि क्या कौन कौन अग्री करेगा। सो दे सेड नहीं मैडम, हम सब अग्री कर जाएंगे, क्योंकि हमारे तो 5-6 बच्चे हो गए, अब हम जाके दूरबीन से कराए आएंगे। सो दे ऑल वेंट टू द फील्ड एंड वी हैड द लार्जेस्ट नंबर ऑफ tubectomies, because sabne by the age of 25 years they had finished their families, they had all got 5-6 children, sabne दूरबीन से करा लिया। So we had very good numbers, and they also got some kambal wambal सब चीज। So but दिल्ली में ये नहीं था, दिल्ली में तो पकड़ पकड़ के कर रहे थे, which was different from another social and cultural reality। तो इसलिए हमें ये समझ होना बहुत important है कि क्या अप्रोप्रिएट रिसर्च होती है, किस तरह की हमें रिसर्च करनी चाहिए। अब बात आई, कई बार होता है ना कि हम क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च को ज्यादा अहम देते हैं, कि हम उसको स्टैटिस्टिकली एनालाइज कर ले और हम इतना सारा डेटा कलेक्ट करें, सैंपल साइज तो एटलीस्ट 1000 होना चाहिए, एंड वी रियली फॉलो दैट। So one of those researches, I was also part of one of the NGOs who wanted to compare that NGO with ICDS and with private preschools। 3 systems को बच्चों को टेस्ट करके वो बोलना चाहते थे कि कौन सा सिस्टम बेस्ट है। अब फील्ड में हम लोग तो जाते हैं, ऑब्जर्व करते हैं कि ICDS में तो कुछ ज्यादा काम हो नहीं रहा है, ज्यादातर बच्चे मिड डे मील लेते हैं, चले जाते हैं। प्री स्कूल्स में तो बिल्कुल स्कूल जैसे पढ़ाते हैं, और मोबाइल क्रैशेस तो मतलब दैट वाज द NGO, इट वाज डूइंग वेरी गुड वर्क। सो I said, okay, I am going to do a randomized control trial, and I will look at these without knowing which is the group I am studying। सो हमने एक टेस्ट बनाया, इट वाज कल्चरली अप्रोप्रिएट, सब बच्चों के लिए यूज कर सकते थे, बड़ा टाइम लगाया उस स्टडी को करने में। जब रिजल्ट आया तो पता चला कि जो ICDS है वो तो बेस्ट आ रहा है। सो वी सेड कि ये तो कुछ गलत है, हमारा तो फीलिंग है कि ये ICDS कैसे सही आ सकता है, वो तो कुछ करते भी नहीं है, क्यों उनके बच्चे इतना कुछ कर पा रहे हैं। So we then went to the field again and we did qualitative research. हम जा जाके इंटरव्यू करने लगे फैमिलीज को जो ICDS में बच्चों को भेज रहे थे। So they what did they tell us कि मैडम वहां तो नाम लिखवा दिया हमने, वहां से हम ले लेते हैं राशन, उसके बाद हम मोबाइल क्रैश में या प्री स्कूल में भेज देते हैं। तो अब देखो, अगर हम ये दोनों मेथड्स नहीं यूज करते तो हमारा कंक्लूजन तो बिल्कुल ही गलत होता। हम बड़े खुश हो जाते कि ICDS तो बड़ा अच्छा कर रहा है, बट हमने जब क्वालिटेटिवली देखा तो हमें समझ में आया कि कितना गड़बड़ है। तो ये चीजें हमारी ऑब्जर्वेशन से, हम पहले फील्ड में जाते हैं तब हम समझते हैं। ऐसे ही एक और 2004 में एक बहुत like my own experiment when I went to the Maldives, मेरे को कुछ ज्यादा नहीं पता था मालदीव्स के बारे में, और रिसर्चेस भी बहुत कम थी उधर की, क्योंकि इट्स 100% मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन। तो जो भी मैंने डेटा देखा वो या तो वैदेही में था, उनकी लोकल लैंग्वेज में, या अवेलेबल नहीं था। सो आई सेड ठीक है, अब यहीं से बैठ के कुछ बनाना है, टूल तो बना के जाते हैं। सो आई मेड अ इंटरव्यू शेड्यूल, एंड उसमें जैसे हम स्टैंडर्ड लिखते हैं ना, ऊपर लिखते हैं नेम, एज, रिलीजन, लिस्ट ऑफ ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स, their education, their occupation, इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल। तो ऐसे ही मैंने डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल बना के आई वेंट टू द फील्ड। और वहां कोई भी रिसर्च करते हैं तो मिनिस्टर देखता है आपका परफॉर्मर। सो हम मिनिस्टर के ऑफिस में गए एंड he said why have you put religion, we are 100% Muslim population, you don't need this, take it off। said okay, so took it off। उसने और कुछ नहीं बोला। Then again we went to the field and जो फर्स्ट लेवल जो हमारे वर्कर मतलब टीचर्स थे, उनको हमने परफॉर्मा दिया। They started filling it up and then एक क्वेश्चन पे सब इधर उधर देख रहे हैं। तो I went there and I said, what is it? Do you not understand? Is there a problem? So they said, how many brothers and sisters are you? So I said, how many brothers and sisters are you? So they said, no, do you mean from the same father, from the same mother, or both of them? Because उस culture में वो matrilineal society थी, लड़की की शादी हो जाती थी तो अपने मदर के घर में ही रहती थी। When she got married, the husband would come there. They would stay for a couple of years, have children, and then वहाँ बहुत तलाक होता था, तो निकल जाते थे। The man left, then maybe another man came. Now that man married somebody else, so he had children from that. So like this, sometimes there were 2-3 marriages. So they said, should we add up all these? So we said, no, remove it. Remove the question. We don't want it. So sometimes you have to know what you're asking and why you're asking that question. What is the purpose of in that society of having a question like this? So these are some of the funny stories, and so I just feel that for me, and I just want to lay open that basically at the end of this narrative on research, I want to say 3 things that are my belief. I feel that when we do research on people, so when I say people, we mean children, families, communities, you take informed consent from the people. But these are just precautionary measures. There is no power in the hand of the participants. Actually, if you see, the participant actually has no power कि आप इसको कैसे यूज करेंगे। वो तो डेटा बोल देता है, बता देता है, और फिर उसके बाद उसको पता नहीं है कि इस डेटा पे आप क्या करेंगे। आप बुक्स लिखेंगे, आप और ग्रांट मांगेंगे, आपकी you will go from associate professor to professor. What will be your academic transition? So when we are thinking of people, we have to think, when we are working with people, we must know and factor in our vested interest about it. Second thing is research for the people. So the research seeks to understand a genuine problem. मेरे को हमेशा ये लगता है कि लोगों का कोई genuine problem है तो उसको solve करने की हमारी कोशिश होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि हम इतने rich country नहीं हैं जहां हमारे पास बहुत सारा पैसा है research के लिए. We need research to be socially informing of policy and legislation. And third thing, which is, I'm saying my belief, somebody may not agree with me at all, research with the people. So the approach shares power with the people. When people provide you with questions or questions emerge from your observations and dialogue with the people, you involve people in collecting data, report your findings to them. आप वापस उनको बताते हैं अपनी findings और फिर साथ मिलके solution ढूंढते हैं. It enables them and it serves them. So I hope we are able to move to where we see research by the community when individuals are able to ask questions and then the why and how to solve the challenges that can be seen in an evolved manner. And so this is finally the position from which I have discussed this presentation. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. I know I've taken a long time, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Professor Bhargav, for a very, very informative and enriching session and helping us understand the nuances of research. And participants, please address your queries to the speaker. And once again, request all of you to fill the feedback form. If you have any questions, please address it to Professor Bhargav.
I can see many of my students here. Please ask. I'll be happy to engage with you.
Ma'am, there is one question by Dr. Ruby Bharadwaj. Ma'am, would you like to ask?
Ruby, you can unmute and ask.
Yes, thank you very much for this enriching session. You know, what happens is that when we do research in social sciences, and especially on, you know, themes pertaining to families, there are a lot of confidentiality issues. And we find it very difficult to have people participate in that kind of a research. So our numbers, like for example, I have looked at IVF or surrogacy. These are things that nobody wants to talk about. And eventually when you do have, after a lot of scheduling or asking a lot of people around, you may have just 10 people who are willing to give you, who are willing to talk to you. You have data, you have in-depth interviews, but you know, when you really want to present that data, you really don't know how to do it, because you may have a lot of in-depth data, but how do you go about systematically presenting the data? Are there theoretical methods of accessing and presenting and interpreting this kind of data, which may be just very personal narratives?
See, there are two things, and that is, I want to raise both of them in this area. Like if we get passionate about some, this is also to do with one of the bullets I had told you about, the challenges between the practitioners and the researchers. So if there is a little more collaboration, so there are a lot of NGOs who are supporting women who are going through infertility problems or other kind of challenges. So I would always say that if this is an area that excites you, or if this is an area of your interest to work, I mean, it has to be honest. It should not only be for the sake of, okay, hum karna chahte hain aur hamari ye publication aa jayegi. But if you work as a practitioner, there are a lot of issues in that also. Like for instance, now I have a lot of research data. Like I clear all the children for inter-country adoption. So I have child study reports, I have home study reports, I have so much data, which I have put on an Excel sheet. But I cannot share it with the general public, but I can share it with policymakers. So I consolidate it and I bring it to policymakers that this is what is happening. So this is a big problem, and Ruby, I know that how many people have only been able to get 5, 6, 7 people, sometimes just 8 people. You just have to understand it as a field reality. People will not talk about many things, and it's their right. So you cannot coerce, you cannot cajole. You just have to use them and make case studies out of it. Maybe talk about it as case studies. You define it in your methodology that this is the challenge, this is the issue. There was a PhD student from TIS who I went to examine, and she had done only 8 case studies for a PhD. 8,000 words per family. But she had only done that because she could not get more families. Although I know that with this kind of work, you cannot do inferential statistics. You cannot infer, you cannot use those kinds of statistics. But as case studies, nobody stops you from publishing. Look at Piaget. He had used only 3 children to devise his own cognitive theory. But he did it in so much depth. So it has to be, and I think the problem of all research committees, that is our TRBs, our ethics committee, is they're very positivistic. That means they come from a tradition where, the size of sample tells you the power of the test, and therefore the inferences that you draw from it. You have to calculate the sample size based on the universe. So statistics and positivistic research by those social sciences, because they come from a medical field, they come from other fields. So their orientation, in our college also we have the same problem, because ethics committees, TRBs all have a lot of people who come from nutrition, from medical, from these fields. But we have to push for it. I mean, wherever I have sat, I have fought for it. And I said, we are talking about descriptive statistics, we are talking about descriptions, we're talking about exploratory work. There is no work in this area. So we need to do it. So you have to fight for it.
Thank you. It's quite encouraging to hear that.
No, it is tough. It's very tough.
Anyone else? Any questions?
How many compliments are there for you, ma'am, in the chat box?
I can't read them one second. Oh my God, there's so many. What are they? Wonderful session. Thank you, ma'am.
Great session. Thank you. Amazing session. Enlightening.
May I add to that?
Please,
because I was
please, Professor.
listening in absolutely agog. I haven't written it in the chat box, but I want to share this with all of us who were listening in, that this actually is a fantastic example of what good research is all about.
True.
You know, such thorough research presented with such energy and, with such looking, with such exacting details. The fact that you explored every detail, and the fact that there is that little, imp inside you, which prompts you to see ki nahi, ye bhi dekhna hai aur wo bhi dekhna hai, which you so candidly shared with us. This really is an example of the way we should be all researching. So thank you so much. I can tell you that I was listening in quite keenly to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Professor,
are there any questions in this?
Yeah. Are there any questions? Professor Pal, can we all have a group photograph with our speaker?
Sure, why not?
Please unmute your cameras. Let's have a picture with Professor Bhargav. Everyone, please. Thank you.
Everyone, please unmute your cameras.
Is it done, Prerna?
Yes.
Okay. I'll now request Prerna to propose the official vote of thanks from the HDFE department. Prerna.
Hello, ma'am. On behalf of the Department of HDFE, I would like to thank you for doing this amazing session for us, and which is something, we really need in today's time. We are writing a lot. Our students are also writing, and sometimes when we tell them about the research and stuff, they sometimes understand. हम उनको चीजें बताते हैं. आपने आज जो अपने एग्जाम्पल से बताया ना, there are so many questions which students also ask कि what if the participant is doing or the जिसके साथ हम रिसर्च करें वो ऐसा कर रहे हैं तो क्या. So there are so many questions which students also ask, and I think आपके real life examples ने काफी ज्यादा help करा है उसको to वो confusions और उन चीजों को clear करने के लिए for every one of us. So it was a very comprehensive session, very well organized and systematic. And it was our pleasure to have you on this platform today with us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
And Vinita, we have your PPT with us, so we'll be happy to share it with any department that wants to refer to the PPT. And I'm glad that you blended both your experiential thing and the classroom research methodology that we teach our students, So it came through very well. And of course, we have your recording with us, and we will be putting it up on our website. And I've taken your consent for that too. So thank you once again. Despite your being indisposed, you didn't want to, call it off, and you wanted to do the session. Thank you, Professor Pal, for being with us on this session today. And thank you, Ruby, for attending the session. All the faculty members from JDMC and other colleges and students who are here this morning to attend the session. And thank you once again. Stay safe, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please recover soon. Good wishes to you, Professor Bhargav. And I want to tell those who are from other colleges who have attended this, it is really heartening for me to see faculty members and students from other colleges. And I must say that the HDFE lectures in particular are very well attended by faculty members and students of other colleges. It's very motivating for us, Isn't it, Nimi? It's a real
definitely
source of motivation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so
just
glad.
to add to this, Nimi ma'am, I had my first years attending this session, and I messaged them that you may leave out, because you must be having other classes. And said, no, ma'am, the stories are far more interesting. We can miss other classes. So I was so glad, Thank you so much.
I'm so glad.
Aapki principal hame danda na mare, but.
Nita, I'm so glad that your students from IP could make it today.
Yes, ma'am.
We have students from Shyama Prasad, from Bharti, from Aditi and other colleges, and faculty members as well. Wonderful. And we had faculty from Jamia too in the morning, but they had classes. Some of them had to leave, because they had to take their classes. But all the same, we had more than 200 participants at a given point.
It was a very vital, I really loved the PPT. I loved your explanation. I loved the stories. The way you've combined really theory with praxis. It was really a very, very good session, Nimi. Very good, Nimi. One more feather in your cap.
Thank you so much.
And I have haven't been able to read the comments. So is there some way you can, save them and send it to me?
Sure, ma'am. We'll just try our level best and share it.
I think you can do it.
Yeah.
We'll take screenshots or something. We'll do something.
There is a way of directly.
Yes,
there is a way of directly.
We'll do it. From the recording itself, we can, I think, do it.
But I have not been able to read them, so I just want to. If there's some questions in it, that's what I mean, and not.
And we'll share both the things with you, questions and compliments. You must read them. बहुत beautifully, participants have also mentioned.
I think many of your old students may be there, listening.
And maybe the students whose stories also I put there. I can see some of them are there whose stories are part of this, because, they all actually become a part of your life, your students.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes,
And Professor Bhargav, thank you so much for attending the session on inclusive education also. Last week that we had from Azim Premji University, that was also really brilliant, Professor Pal. The
I
speaker
know, I
was
missed that.
very good and it was very well received by the audience. And Professor Bhargav was there for that session, happened to be one of our old students.
Okay.
So we are trying to do a series of meaningful lectures. Let's hope we continue to do that.
You will. I know you will. Right.
Thank
I'll
you,
take your
everyone.
leave.
And
Bye, everybody. I hope everybody's filled up their attendance and feedback
we
form.
had
Yeah.
posted 3 times. I hope everybody has done it. Thank you, faculty members, students, and Professor Pal. Thank you, Professor Bhargav. Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Meeta, for joining in with your
Thank you.
students.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Suparna.
thank you.